Maxim Tsyplakov is the only Islander possibly headed to arbitration. We'll talk about what will happen and what impact it'll have on the Islanders. That and a lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey, and we have got a lot to discuss on today's show. One of the few pieces of business the Islanders definitely have to take care of this offseason, signing Maxim Tsyplakov to a new deal. He is arbitration eligible. We'll talk about that situation and its impact on the team. We'll talk about the retirement officially of former Islanders goalie Yaroslav Halak. And we go to the first round as we continue our player-by-player scouting reports on the Islanders 2025 draft class with Kashawn Aitcheson. Let's start with Maxim Tsyplakov. And he has yet to reach a deal with the New York Islanders, came over from the KHL where he scored more than 30 goals in his last year there, played 77 games as a rookie for the Islanders, had 10 goals, 35 points, was a +4 and had 39 penalty minutes. And, you know, the thing about Tsyplakov, you saw flashes of what he's capable of. You saw that, you know, he sees the game well, even though he did still have adjustments to make from the KHL to the NHL, the narrower rink in the NHL, the more physical style of play. All of those things certainly factors in 10 goals as a rookie in the NHL. And I don't think he had a bad rookie season. 10 goals, 35 points. Maybe I was hoping for something closer to 15 goals and 40 points, but I'll take what he gave us. And look, Tsyplakov himself indicated that there were times when he needed to do a little bit more without the puck, had some issues with positioning defensively at times, although he is solid and responsible defensively. Again, that adjustment to the style of play, the speed of play, the size of the rink, all of that played in, and getting to know new teammates and a new system also playing into it. But overall, I would say his rookie season was solid. So what is still holding up an agreement between Matthew Darche, the Islanders GM, and Maxim Tsyplakov and his agent on a new deal? I think the biggest issue could very well be the length of the contract. Tsyplakov may want a little more than a 1 or 2 year deal, and Darche may be a little hesitant to give him more than that based on, again, the very real fear that you don't want to be locked in and committed on players that may or may not ultimately be part of your core. So to Matthew Darche and to the Islanders, they want to see more from Maxim Tsyplakov. They want to see Sippy get to that 20-goal mark, establish himself as a solid second-line player, contribute more on the power play than he did last year, where he scored 1 power play goal and had 2 power play assists. And again, he was not always out there on the second power play unit. He was kind of in the mix, but not one of the primary guys for most of the season. So, establishing himself as part of the power play rotation and then being more productive based on his size and based on his skills. Tsyplakov is capable of playing a number of roles on the power play, whether it's bumper, whether it's getting in front of the net and trying to, screen the goalie or get those tips and rebounds a la Anders Lee. He's capable of all of those things, and he does have a really good shot. So, again, the talent is there, but you want to see him start to play more consistently. And you want to see him establish himself as a legitimate NHL player. Right now, he's kind of on the fringe of that. And again, the talent is clearly there, but you don't want to see him regress or stall at where he's at. Again, 10 goals this year, a repeat of 10 goals and 35 points. That would be disappointing if Tsyplakov does it. So I think term is probably a bigger obstacle than dollars and cents. I easily could see, to me, Tsyplakov somewhere in between $2.5 and $3.5 million a year. If I'm the Islanders and I want to kind of reach a compromise with Tsyplakov, the Islanders probably want a 1-year deal. Sippy probably wants a 3 or 4 year deal. I could see meeting in the middle with a 2-year deal. And if you want to, extend it with a team option for a 3rd year, maybe I could see that as being part of the negotiation. Now, arbitration is going to start up pretty soon. There still is, as of the time of this recording, no official date for Maxim Tsyplakov's arbitration hearing. And quite honestly, I would be surprised if it goes to a hearing. And if I'm the Islanders and I'm Maxim Tsyplakov, I don't want it to go to a hearing, and I'll explain why. You go to the hearing, and the player is going to say, hey, this is what I think I'm worth. Here are 2 or 3 players who I have similar statistics with, who are making more money than what the team is offering. This is what I think the arbitrator should give me, and that's it. Then the team has to come back and argue why the player isn't worth what they're asking for, or why they're not worth more than what the team is offering. And what can happen in these hearings is that things are said by the general manager or whoever's representing the team that upsets the player, offends the player, makes them question whether or not they're in the team's plans, whether or not the team values them, makes them feel not welcome or not valued, perhaps is a better word, by the organization. So it can create bad blood. And sometimes maybe the coach will say something at a hearing. You just are better off not having it go to arbitration if you could help it, because of the potential to sour relations between the team and the organization. Now, another reason why Tsyplakov may not have signed his contract yet, or even gotten involved in even more negotiations, and this is actually a good reason, quite honestly. Tsyplakov basically just welcomed a new member to the family. Just had a baby, he and his wife. So congratulations, first of all, to the Tsyplakovs. No doubt about that. It's a very happy occasion. And, look, maybe he basically said to his agent, look, baby's on the way. I am not going to get involved in these negotiations for the next couple of weeks. Give me a little bit of time, and then things will, then we'll talk. And now that the baby is here, and congratulations again to the Tsyplakov family, well, let's see whether or not things pick up in the next few days. So it's been a busy, off season really for a lot of Islander players, and we'll see whether or not the birth of this baby is sort of the next step for Tsyplakov. And there was a great picture that the Islanders put out there on social media of Tsyplakov holding his new child. It was beautiful. That was a great thing. And Tsyplakov not alone in that. Matt Martin had twins late in the regular season, and Simon Holmstrom getting engaged recently. That was announced on, at least put out on social media by the Islanders on Saturday. So congratulations to them. And the Engvalls also welcomed a new baby. So congratulations to them. And, hopefully now with the new child, Tsyplakov moves ahead and, inking that new contract becomes more of a priority. So no need to panic. It's just a question of when a deal gets signed and what parameters end up. The Islanders have enough cap space to sign Maxim Tsyplakov. That's realistically not going to be a problem. So we'll see how it all plays out, and we'll keep you updated here on the Locked On Islanders podcast as soon as a deal is reached or if an arbitration date is announced. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. Former Islanders goalie Yaroslav Halak announced his retirement. We're going to talk about that, his impact on the team over the years. We'll have that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's super easy to use, fast to pay out, and it makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Again, if your first $5 bet wins, you'll get $150 in bonus bets if you're new to FanDuel. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. So Friday, Yaroslav Halak officially announcing his retirement from the National Hockey League. And look, congratulations to Yaro Halak. What a great career he had not actually played in the NHL since the end of the 2022-2023 season when he was with the New York Rangers. But he did spend 4 seasons with the Islanders and actually played more games and started more games and won more games with the Islanders than he did with any other team in his career. Played with the Isles from 2014-2015 through 2017-2018. He was 29 when he joined the Isles and went to the All-Star game in 2015 as the Islanders representative. In his 4 years with the Isles, a 2.69 goals against average, a .913 save percentage, and 88 of his 295 career wins came in an Islanders uniform. He was 5 wins short of that magic 300 win mark. And you know what Halak really did for the New York Islanders was stabilize the goaltending situation. Because you may remember, everydayers, we've talked about, Rick DiPietro and his injury situation and how all of a sudden the Islanders' goaltending situation was, they were just looking to fill in guys. You had Dwayne Rolison and Martin Biron and Al Montoya. And a lot of those guys, like Biron and Rolison, they were filling in, but they were on the downside of their career, as was Evgeny Nabokov when he finally reached the island. So getting a guy who was still in his prime in Jaro Halak meant a lot. And he had 38 wins in his first season with the team, which was the single season record for wins. Billy Smith had 32 back in 81-82. And he put together an 11-game winning streak where he was absolutely on fire. So it was a really solid performance. And then in 2015, he was the Islanders' playoff goalie. They ended up losing that 7-game series to the Capitals, but Halak kept them in it. A 2.30 goals against, a 9.26 save percentage. And, then the Islanders started getting goalies to rotate with Halak in Thomas Greiss and then Robin Lehner. And Lehner comes in and replaces Halak once his 4-year deal ended. But ultimately, you've had the beginnings of solid goaltending on the island with Yaroslav Halak's arrival in 2014, 2015. And he really did stabilize the organization. You don't see the Islanders. Look, everyone talks about John Tavares and his impact on the team and getting them to the playoffs and finally winning a series for the first time since 1993. But the Islanders don't really become a playoff team in 2015, especially without the contributions of one Yaroslav Halak. Now, is he a Hall of Famer? I would say no. He would be in sort of the Hall of Very Good with the 295 wins. Yeah, if he got to 300, maybe. But, did not win a cup. Did win 2 Jennings trophies for being on the team that had the best goals against average. But that was 1 year with St. Louis, 1 year with Boston. Also played for Montreal, briefly for the Capitals, and then Boston and Vancouver and the Rangers at the very end of his career, where he kind of finished up as a veteran journeyman, filling in and backing up, and he was still reliable at that point. So while Yaroslav Halak is probably not a Hockey Hall of Famer and wasn't really an Islander long enough to be a surefire Islanders Hall of Famer, but I think he will be in the Hall of Really Good from a full hockey perspective, and from an Islanders perspective, just a solid veteran goaltender who gave the team 4 good seasons and was sort of part of that group that bridged from Rick DiPietro when he was, his career was ended by injuries, till you got to Ilya Sorokin, who has been sort of the go-to guy, and Varlamov was part of that bridge as well. An important transition piece in Islanders history, got the team to the playoffs, helped them stay in a series where they were clearly not the better team on paper. And again, just congratulations to him on a great career and some solid contributions to the New York Islanders. So Jaro Halak hanging up his skates, and congratulations to him on a great Islanders and NHL career. 295 career wins for Yaroslav Halak and 38 wins in a season while he was with the New York Islanders. We have got more to get to on today's show. We continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders draft class of 2025. We're down to the 3 first-rounders. We'll talk right now about Kashawn Aitcheson and what he'll add to the team and how long it'll take him to get there. Plus, for our Islanders birthday of the day, we'll talk about the impact of an original Islander who was then part of one of the two big trades that helped the Islanders go on a big playoff run in 1975. We've got all that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. So we continue our look at the Islanders draft class of 2025. We're going player by player, and this has been fun. And we're up to the first round, 17th overall pick, third pick in the first round. Kashawn Aitcheson, left shot defenseman, 18 years old, a Toronto native, 17th overall pick by the Islanders, 6'2", 196 pounds. Already a big kid. Could still grow, probably does need to put on, again, like most draft picks, that 5 to 10 pounds of muscle. But again, most of the time, you work out, you keep developing, you work with the strength and conditioning coaches, and that's, how you gain that weight. Last year, played in the Ontario Junior League, the Barrie Colts. Had 26 goals and 59 points in 64 games. Also had 88 penalty minutes, was a +6, and added 6 goals and 12 points in 16 playoff games. And I think, Aitcheson's going to be one of those guys who fans are probably going to really, really like because, he is a physical guy who's tough in the corners and he throws those punishing hits. He's a guy, and we've every day, as we've talked about this, and I've had a lot of comments on YouTube and emails saying, the Islanders need more physicality. They need an enforcer. They need somebody who's going to stick up for teammates. And over the last season, we didn't see enough of that at times. Well, here's a player who definitely could fit that bill. And, he can put up a lot of minutes. He can kill penalties. He's pretty good in the transition between defense and offense, has played power play, got a heavy and accurate shot, does know how to find shooting lanes, which is important, especially if you're going to play on the power play. But he does still have some things he needs to work on. His skating is solid when moving north-south, but east-west needs to improve. And I think here's a guy who is most likely, as a ceiling, a second-pair defenseman. As I mentioned, he is also, like Matthew Schaefer, a left shot defenseman. So 5 years from now, can we see, Schaefer as the number 1 pair, Aitcheson on the number 2 pair, and those are your top 2 left shot defensemen on this team? It is, again, possible if he does indeed reach his ceiling. And look, he's a popular teammate, and the key, I think, and some critics have said that, he sometimes goes for that big hit and ends up being out of position. I think he did improve in that area a bit last year, but, and especially as the season progressed, according to most scouting reports, where, it was a concern a year ago, and early in the season, there were more instances, but those instances seem to be reduced as the season progressed. So the growth in and of itself is encouraging. I would say he is a minimum of 2 to 3 seasons away from joining the New York Islanders. But again, different players progress at different rates. And we are hoping to see, again, more from him in the near future. And I think like a lot of GMs, Matthew Darche is going to build from the goal, the defense, and then the forwards. And Aitcheson is going to be part of that development, assuming that the Islanders, they did the draft part. Now it's time to do the develop part of draft and develop. In recent years, they weren't particularly good at either. Now it's time to start, putting the pedal to the metal. You drafted a promising player. Now let's see you get him through juniors, whether he goes the college route, the AHL route, whatever his path is going to be. Let's see him develop and reach his potential and become a solid contributor for the New York Islanders down the road. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and Saturday would have been the 80th birthday of former Islanders winger Craig Cameron. The 6', 195-pound Edmonton native played one game in the original six era for the Detroit Red Wings, but was an original member of the St. Louis Blues, then played for the Minnesota North Stars, and then joined the Islanders in their first ever season. Scored a career-high 19 goals that year for the Isles, had 33 points, 27 penalty minutes in 72 games, and was only a minus 37, which for the first-year Islanders was pretty good. Followed that up with 15 goals in the Islanders' second season, and in the third season on the island, he only had 1 goal and 7 points in 37 games, got traded back to Minnesota, where, again, one of those trades that got the Islanders J.P. Parise and Jude Drouin, which was a big part of their 75 playoff run. So a great deal by the late, great Bill Torrey, trading Craig Cameron to Minnesota. Those two deals, by the way, that got Parise and Drouin just a few days apart, even though they were not part of the same deal. One of his better games, in fact, let's be honest, his best game as an Islander, January 23rd, 1973, the Islanders hosting the California Golden Seals at the Nassau Coliseum. Jerry Desjardins, the goalie for the Islanders, Marv Edwards, the goalie for the Seals, and the Islanders just dominate this one, thanks in large part to our Islanders birthday of the day. In the first period, Cameron sets up Richard Grenier to make it 2-0 Islanders. Reggie Leach scores for the Seals to make it 2-1. And then with the Islanders up 3-1 on the power play, our Islanders birthday of the day, Craig Cameron scores from Dan Blackburn and Ralph Stewart. Bob Stewart in the box for the Seals. And a minute and 9 seconds later, Cameron at even strength from Jim Mayer and Don Blackburn. And then in the third period, Cameron completes the hat trick. Germain Gagnon with the only assist. The Islanders go on to beat the Seals by a score of 8-1. For Craig Cameron, he had the hat trick. He had an assist. He was a +4, and he had 5 shots on goal as the Islanders cruise to that easy 8-1 win. 30 saves for Desjardins. Unfortunately, Craig Cameron left us far too soon, passing away in 2012 at the age of 66. But Craig Cameron, and we recall his only career NHL hat trick, he is our Islanders birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason. We're bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, or a topic you'd like us to discuss, feel free to email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. We will do a mailbag by the end of the week, either Wednesday or Friday. We've got a couple of questions in the queue, but keep them coming. Always like to do 3 or 4 of them at a time. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and it's great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you anytime. We're back on Wednesday, everydayers, as we take a look at Victor Eklund in our scouting report. Maybe we'll have some updates on the Tsyplakov contract situation, and we'll have the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.